"It hurts, let's try again tonight," the virgin bride whispered, but the rancher's patience changed. The young bride, Amina, stood nervously in her simple white dress, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched the bouquet of fresh flowers. She had always dreamed of love, but she had never imagined that it would arrive in such a quiet, unexpected way. Growing up in a small town, she had watched friends fall in love, get married and start families, but she had always felt a little apart from it all. Her heart was tender, her spirit cautious, and she had little experience with romance. Now, as she faced the man she was about to marry, she felt a strange mix of excitement, fear, and curiosity. The groom, a local rancher named Harun, waited at the altar with a calm and steady presence. Tall, strong, and rugged from years of working under the sun, he looked every bit the image of a man who was used to hard work and long days. But beneath his serious exterior, there was a softness in his eyes, a quiet patience that had drawn Amina to him. Harun had never been a man to rush, to demand, or to impose. His reputation in the town was that of someone who handled life with quiet strength and integrity. As he looked at Amina walking toward him, he felt a gentle surge of emotion, something between pride, tenderness, and responsibility. The ceremony passed in a blur of smiles, whispered congratulations, and soft music. Friends and family clapped and cheered, but Amina felt herself somewhat detached from the celebration. Her mind was preoccupied with thoughts of the night ahead, the life she was about to begin with a man she barely knew in an intimate way. She felt an ache in her chest, not from fear of marriage itself, but from the uncertainty of what came next. Would she be able to meet Harun's expectations? Would she be able to open herself fully to him? Later that evening, the couple arrived at the ranch where Harun had spent most of his life. The house was modest but warm, with wooden beams, wide windows that opened onto fields, and the scent of earth and animals lingering in the air. The atmosphere was different from the bustling town, quiet, simple, and real. Amina felt a strange comfort in the simplicity, yet a nervous tension lingered. She had imagined her wedding night in countless ways, yet nothing could prepare her for the reality of it. When they entered the bedroom, the weight of the moment settled heavily on her. Harun closed the door gently and turned to her with a reassuring smile. He reached out, placing a hand over hers, and spoke softly, "Take your time. There's no rush." His words were simple, but they carried a depth of understanding that surprised her. In that moment, Amina realized that this man was different from anyone she had ever known. He respected her feelings, her pace, and her comfort, and that realization brought a small flicker of relief. As the night unfolded, Amina felt a mix of emotions, shyness, vulnerability, and a hint of embarrassment. She whispered in a voice barely audible, "It hurts, let's try again tonight." The words trembled with honesty, revealing her fear but also her willingness to keep trying, to learn, and to trust. Harun listened quietly, never showing impatience or frustration. Instead, he nodded, letting her know that her feelings were valid and that he would wait until she felt ready. That night, they did not rush, nor did they force anything. They shared small touches, gentle words, and quiet moments that spoke louder than any action could. In the days that followed, Amina began to adjust to life on the ranch. It was a world very different from the town she had grown up in, a place of hard work, early mornings, and the constant presence of animals and nature. Harun guided her patiently, teaching her how to care for the horses, feed the animals, and manage daily chores. Each day was a lesson, not only in ranch life but in trust and partnership. Amina often stumbled, dropping tools or tripping over uneven paths, yet Harun never mocked or scolded her. Instead, he offered quiet encouragement, a steady hand, and words of reassurance that helped her gain confidence. As they worked together, Amina began to notice small details about Harun that deepened her respect and admiration. She saw the way he treated every living creature with care, the way he listened to the animals, and the patience he showed when teaching her new skills. She realized that his strength was not only in his physical abilities but in his heart, a heart capable of empathy, understanding, and patience. This awareness comforted her, softening her initial fears and making her feel safe in his presence. The evenings on the ranch were often spent in quiet reflection. After a long day, they would sit on the porch, watching the sun dip behind the distant hills. Sometimes, they simply sat in silence, letting the peaceful sounds of the countryside fill the space between them. Other times they talked, about dreams, about memories, about hopes for the future. Amina slowly began to share her thoughts and fears, discovering that Haroun listened without judgment. Each conversation, each shared moment, became a building block for the trust and understanding that their marriage required. Amina's initial anxieties about intimacy began to transform in these moments of connection. She realized that love was not measured by physical closeness alone, but by the depth of respect, patience, and emotional presence. Haroun's gentle demeanor, his willingness to wait, and his understanding of her fears allowed her to relax gradually. Every small gesture, a reassuring touch, a kind word, a shared laugh, helped her to feel more secure, more confident, and more open to the intimacy that would come in its own time. As the first week passed, the couple started to find a rhythm. Life on the ranch, with all its work and simplicity, became a teacher for them both. Amina learned to navigate her new environment, gaining practical skills while also learning the value of patience and perseverance. Haroun, in turn, learned to slow down, to notice the small details of her comfort, and to appreciate the courage it took for her to adjust to such a drastic change. The early tension of their marriage began to dissolve, replaced by a quiet companionship that neither had anticipated but both needed. Amina often reflected on the first night, the words she had whispered, and the patience Haroun had shown. She understood that their journey would not be easy, that it would require continued trust and mutual respect. Yet, she also felt a growing confidence in their ability to face the challenges together. That initial moment of vulnerability when she admitted her fear and asked to try again had set the tone for their relationship. It was a reminder that love required honesty, patience, and the courage to grow together. By the end of the first month, Amina felt a subtle but profound change within herself. She was no longer just the timid, uncertain bride who had whispered in fear. She was becoming a partner, someone who could navigate life's challenges, who could communicate openly, and who could appreciate the quiet strength of the man she married. Haroun, too, felt a change. He recognized that patience and empathy could transform vulnerability into connection. Their bond, though still new and fragile, had begun to deepen in ways that neither had expected. Evenings continued to bring moments of reflection and gentle closeness. Amina would sometimes rest her head on Haroun's shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing, the warmth of his presence, and the security of his patience. They did not rush. They did not force the pace. Each shared laugh, each thoughtful gesture, each moment of silence became a thread weaving them closer together. The ranch, once a place of work and solitude, had become a sanctuary where trust, understanding, and quiet love could grow. In these first days of marriage, Amina learned that true intimacy was built on more than just physical closeness. It was built on patience, empathy, and the willingness to listen and adapt. Haroun's patience, his unwavering calm, and his gentle guidance had turned what could have been an awkward and fearful beginning into a foundation of trust and hope. The bride who had once whispered in fear now felt the beginnings of confidence, courage, and love, quiet, steady, and growing with each passing day. By the time the first month had ended, their marriage had already taken root in ways that promised resilience and growth. They had faced uncertainty together, navigated new responsibilities, and discovered the power of patience and empathy. Amina realized that while the beginning had been difficult, it had also been necessary. teaching them both the value of understanding, respect, and love that develops slowly but surely. And so life on the ranch continued, with its quiet routines, shared tasks, and moments of gentle connection. The first night, with its whispered words of fear and hope, became a memory that guided them both, a reminder that patience, kindness, and trust could turn uncertainty into a lasting, loving partnership. Life on the ranch settled into a new rhythm for Amina, one that was far different from the quiet routines of her childhood home in town. Each morning began before the sun had fully risen, with the soft crowing of roosters and the gentle lowing of cows from the nearby pasture. At first, the early mornings were a struggle for her. She was not used to waking so early, nor to the physical work that the day demanded. But Haroun never pressured her or expressed frustration. Instead, he moved with quiet patience, showing her what needed to be done, guiding her hands when she struggled, and always offering a word of encouragement. Amina discovered that the ranch was alive with a rhythm of its own. The horses needed care, the animals needed feeding, and the crops required constant attention. There were chores to be done at every hour of the day, each demanding focus, skill, and patience. Initially, Amina felt overwhelmed. She worried that she would make mistakes or slow Haroun down, but he remained calm, gently correcting her when she struggled and praising her for even the smallest accomplishments. "You're learning fast," he would say with a smile. "Just keep going. Take your time." Those simple words lifted her spirits and reminded her that she was not alone in this new life. As the days passed, Amina began to notice small details about Haroun that deepened her admiration for him. She saw the way he approached each task with care and precision, whether it was grooming a horse, mending a fence, or preparing a meal. He had a quiet strength that was reassuring, but it was paired with a kindness and sensitivity that she had rarely encountered before. He listened when she spoke, never dismissing her concerns, and he seemed to understand her fears and anxieties without her having to explain them. This awareness made her feel safer and more willing to try, even when tasks seemed difficult or unfamiliar. Amina's confidence grew slowly, day by day. She learned how to saddle a horse properly, how to feed the animals without startling them, and even how to mend fences with Haroun's guidance. There were moments when she stumbled or felt frustrated with herself, but Haroun's patience never wavered. Instead of criticism, he offered gentle instruction and reassurance. He taught her that mistakes were not failures but opportunities to learn, and that effort and persistence mattered more than perfection. These lessons extended beyond ranch work. They became lessons for life, and for their marriage as well. In the evenings, when the work of the day was done, Haroun and Amina often sat on the porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon and painting the sky with shades of pink and orange. The silence between them was comfortable, not awkward, filled with the sounds of nature and the quiet rhythm of the ranch. Sometimes, Amina would share her thoughts and dreams, her fears and insecurities, and Haroun would listen patiently, responding with thoughtful words that made her feel heard and understood. She began to realize that intimacy in marriage was not only about physical closeness, but about emotional connection, about sharing one's inner world and feeling accepted. There were also moments of laughter, small joys that lightened the daily routine. Amina would often stumble while trying to carry a bucket of water, spilling it and laughing at herself, and Haroun would chuckle alongside her, offering a helping hand. They shared stories of their pasts, of childhood memories, and of hopes for the future. These simple, everyday moments began to create a bond stronger than she had imagined. The ranch, with all its hard work and quiet demands, became a place where trust and understanding could grow, where the two of them could learn about each other in ways that were slow, natural, and enduring. One afternoon, Haroun took Amina to the pasture to teach her how to ride one of the horses. At first, she felt nervous, gripping the reins tightly and fearing she would fall. But Harun stayed close, guiding her with a steady hand and gentle words. "Relax," he said. "Trust yourself. Trust me." Slowly, her fear began to ease. She realized that he was not only teaching her a skill but also showing her how to trust herself, to have confidence in her abilities, and to rely on him without feeling dependent. That lesson, simple as it seemed, carried a deeper meaning for their relationship as well. Amina also began to notice the emotional strength that Harun possessed. Life on the ranch was not always easy, and challenges often arose unexpectedly. Whether it was a sick animal, a broken fence, or a sudden storm, Harun faced each difficulty calmly and decisively. Watching him handle these situations with patience and care made Amina realize that strength was not only about physical ability, but about emotional resilience, and that true partnership in marriage required both. She began to understand that love was not about passion alone, but about mutual respect, support, and the ability to face life's challenges together. As the weeks passed, their relationship deepened. Harun's patience allowed Amina to open up gradually, sharing her thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment. She began to trust him not only with her physical self, but with her heart and mind. The early anxieties she had felt on their wedding night began to fade, replaced by a quiet confidence that came from being seen, understood, and supported. She realized that intimacy was a journey, not a destination, and that Harun's willingness to move slowly, with care and empathy, made the journey possible. Amina also discovered her own inner strength. She realized that she was capable of more than she had imagined, both in practical skills and in emotional resilience. The ranch demanded endurance, patience, and adaptability, and she found that she could meet those demands when guided with kindness and support. This newfound confidence carried over into her relationship with Harun. She felt empowered to express herself, to voice her fears, and to participate actively in decisions about their life together. The balance of giving and receiving support became a foundation for their growing bond. Even on days when she felt tired or overwhelmed, Harun's presence provided comfort. He never criticized or pressured her, and his calm demeanor made her feel safe. Amina realized that patience and empathy were not passive qualities. They required intention, effort, and a willingness to put another person's needs alongside one's own. Harun's example taught her that love was not only about emotion, but about action, about consistent care and attention, and about respecting one another's pace and comfort. By the end of the second month, Amina's initial fears and insecurities had transformed into a quiet confidence and appreciation for the life she was building with Harun. She had learned to navigate the ranch, to care for animals, and to participate in the work that sustained their home. She had also learned to navigate the emotional landscape of marriage, trust, communication, patience, and respect. Harun, in turn, had learned to notice the small victories in her growth, to celebrate her successes, and to provide steady support when challenges arose. One evening, as they sat together on the porch watching the stars, Amina reflected on how far she had come. She thought of the night she had whispered, "It hurts, let's try again tonight," and marveled at how that moment of vulnerability had shaped their journey. Harun's patience and understanding had allowed her to grow, to trust, and to feel safe. Their relationship had evolved from uncertainty and fear into a partnership built on empathy, respect, and quiet love. The lessons of the ranch, the hard work, the shared responsibilities, and the slow, steady growth mirrored the lessons of marriage itself. Amina realized that true intimacy was more than physical closeness. It was about patience, emotional connection, mutual respect, and the willingness to support each other through uncertainty and challenge. She understood that Harun's love was not loud or forceful but steady, quiet, and unwavering. A love that allowed her to grow without fear, to learn without pressure, and to trust without hesitation. That realization filled her with gratitude, admiration, and a deepening affection for the man she had married. As their days continued, life on the ranch became a tapestry of small, meaningful moments. Early mornings of work, shared meals, quiet evenings on the porch, and gentle lessons in trust and patience wove together to create a foundation for their marriage. Amina felt a sense of belonging, not only to the ranch but to a partnership built on understanding and care. Harun's patience had transformed what could have been an overwhelming and fearful experience into a journey of growth, connection, and love. By the end of part 2 of their journey, Amina had grown into her role as both a partner and an individual. She had discovered skills she never knew she had, a strength she had never acknowledged, and a capacity for trust and intimacy that was nurtured by Harun's consistent care. Their marriage, though still in its early stages, had begun to flourish. The bond between them, strengthened by patience, respect, and understanding, promised a future where challenges could be faced together, and love could grow steadily and deeply. Life on the ranch had started to feel familiar to Amina, though every day still held new lessons and challenges. By the 3rd month of her marriage, she had grown more confident in her daily responsibilities, from tending to the animals to helping with the harvest. But life had a way of testing both her courage and her resilience. One morning, as the sun rose slowly over the hills, a sudden crisis disrupted the peaceful routine they had begun to establish. A beloved horse, a young mare that had been part of the ranch for years, had fallen and injured her leg badly. The animal's cries filled the air, and Amina felt her heart pound with worry. Harun reacted swiftly but calmly, moving toward the horse with steady hands and a focused mind. He assessed the situation carefully, checking the mare's leg, whispering soft, soothing words to calm her fear. Amina wanted to help, but she froze for a moment, unsure of what to do. Harun noticed her hesitation and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Stay close but let me guide you," he said quietly. "We'll do this together." His calmness was contagious. Slowly, Amina stepped closer, following his instructions and helping to support the horse as best she could. It was a moment of fear, tension, and learning all at once. The injured horse was eventually stabilized, thanks to Harun's expertise and Amina's careful assistance. That day, Amina learned something important, not just about the care of animals, but about the strength and patience required in life and in relationships. Harun's calm and measured approach impressed her deeply. She realized that facing challenges together, with support and understanding, could make even the most frightening situations manageable. It was not about rushing or panicking. It was about trust, communication, and working together. After the horse was cared for and the immediate danger had passed, the couple sat together on the porch, exhausted but relieved. Amina reflected on the events of the day and on how much she had learned about Harun, not only his skills and knowledge, but also his emotional strength. He remained composed in moments of crisis, not only protecting the animals but also supporting her through her own fears. She felt a growing admiration for him, but more than that, she felt a deeper emotional connection. She began to understand that love was not only about tenderness and affection, but also about reliability, steadiness, and being there for each other when it mattered most. Life continued with its mix of routine and unexpected challenges. Some days were easier, filled with laughter and shared work, while others tested their patience and endurance. One morning, a sudden storm swept through the area, drenching the fields and making travel dangerous. Harun worked tirelessly to secure the animals and protect the property, while Amina helped as much as she could, learning to anticipate needs and act quickly. The storm was frightening, but working side by side brought them closer together. They realized that facing difficulties as a team strengthened their bond, teaching them resilience and trust. During these trying moments, Amina also began to discover her own inner strength. She had once worried that she would be incapable of handling the responsibilities of ranch life, but now she saw that she could contribute meaningfully, even under pressure. Her confidence in herself grew, not through words or praise, but through action, perseverance, and the quiet recognition that she was capable of meeting challenges head-on. Haroon's patience and steady guidance had allowed her to find this confidence, showing her that she could grow through experience rather than being limited by fear or doubt. As the weeks passed, their emotional connection deepened further. Amina started to see that the ranch was not only a place of work, but also a space for learning about life and relationships. She understood that patience, empathy, and consistent care were essential, not only for the animals and the land, but for the relationship they were building together. Haroon's example demonstrated that true partnership required both giving and receiving support, and that love was expressed as much through action as through words. She began to feel a sense of security and trust that she had never known before, and it strengthened her affection for him. In quieter moments, they shared conversations about the past, the present, and the future. Haroon spoke of his childhood on the ranch, the lessons he had learned from his parents, and his hopes for the future of the land and their family. Amina shared her own experiences, her dreams, and the fears that had followed her into marriage. Through these exchanges, they discovered new depths of understanding about each other. Amina realized that true intimacy was about being seen and heard, about feeling safe to express oneself without fear of judgment. Haroon's patience and attentiveness provided that safety, nurturing a bond built on trust and mutual respect. There were also tender moments of connection beyond conversation. After long days of work, they would sit quietly, holding hands or leaning against each other, finding comfort in the simple presence of one another. Haroon never rushed or forced anything, allowing Amina to relax and feel secure. She realized that intimacy was not something that could be hurried. It grew naturally when nurtured by patience, kindness, and understanding. These small, quiet gestures became the foundation of their emotional closeness, teaching Amina that love could be gentle yet profound, steady yet transformative. Amina also began to notice how much Haroon valued her perspective and contributions. Whether it was helping to plan the day's work, caring for the animals, or making decisions about household matters, he treated her as an equal partner. This respect was something she had never expected, and it deepened her admiration for him. She understood that a healthy relationship required both strength and humility, and she saw these qualities reflected in Haroon's actions every day. The balance of leadership and care, patience and guidance, inspired her to become a more confident and engaged partner. One day, a visitor came to the ranch, a neighboring rancher seeking advice on repairing a fence. Amina watched as Haroon calmly explained the process, offering guidance while allowing the other man to learn through hands-on experience. She saw parallels between this and their own relationship. Just as he taught others with patience and understanding, he had nurtured her growth in marriage. The realization filled her with gratitude and admiration, reinforcing her desire to continue learning, growing, and contributing to their life together. By now, the initial tension and nervousness of their early marriage had faded into a comfortable routine of trust, communication, and shared responsibility. Amina had learned that relationships required effort, patience, and empathy, and she felt more equipped to navigate challenges both big and small. She understood that love was not about dramatic gestures or fleeting passion, but about consistency, reliability, and the willingness to face life's difficulties together. Haroon's example had shown her that true love was as much about listening, guiding, and supporting as it was about tenderness and affection. Evenings became times of reflection and gentle closeness. They would sometimes sit on the porch, watching the stars and talking quietly, or simply sit in companionable silence, feeling the presence of each other as a source of comfort and stability. Amina realized that the ranch, with all its challenges and demands, was shaping her in ways she had never anticipated. She was becoming more capable, confident, and resilient, not only in practical matters but in her emotional life. Haroon's patience and guidance had given her the freedom to grow at her own pace, fostering trust and intimacy that would endure long after the early uncertainties of marriage had passed. As the third month drew to a close, Amina reflected on the journey they had taken together. From the first night of fear and uncertainty to the present, filled with trust and growing confidence, she could see how much they had both learned. Haroon had taught her the value of patience, empathy, and steady support. She had learned to face challenges without fear, to trust herself and her partner, and to recognize the quiet strength that underpinned their relationship. Their love had begun to deepen, grounded in mutual respect, understanding, and shared experience. Amina understood that the future would bring new challenges, but she felt ready to face them with Haroon by her side. They had discovered that partnership was about more than romance. It was about facing life together, supporting each other through hardship, and celebrating small victories along the way. The lessons of the ranch, the resilience, patience, and care required for animals, land, and each other, mirrored the lessons of marriage itself. She felt a quiet joy in knowing that their love was growing in ways that were steady, real, and enduring. In these moments of reflection, Amina realized that her whispered words from the first night, "It hurts, let's try again tonight," had set the stage for everything that had followed. Haroon's patient response had created a safe space for her to grow, learn, and trust. The challenges they faced together had strengthened their bond, teaching them both the value of patience, understanding, and partnership. Their marriage was no longer defined by fear or uncertainty, but by the quiet, steady love that grew from shared effort, empathy, and mutual respect. By the end of Part 3, Amina had become not only more confident in her abilities, but also more attuned to the emotional rhythms of their relationship. She had discovered that intimacy and connection were built through consistent care, patience, and trust. Haroon's guidance and example had shown her that love could be gentle yet transformative, steady yet profound. Together, they had begun to build a life grounded in partnership, resilience, and deep emotional connection, a foundation that would support them through whatever challenges lay ahead. By the fourth month of their marriage, Amina and Haroon had begun to find a rhythm that balanced work, companionship, and the gradual deepening of their emotional connection. Life on the ranch continued to be demanding, with chores, animals, and the ever-changing weather shaping their days. Yet amid the hard work, there was a quiet growth happening between them, a slow, steady understanding that went beyond words. Amina began to notice the ways in which Haroon's patience and kindness were transforming not only her confidence, but also the emotional intimacy of their marriage. One morning, Amina woke early, the soft light of dawn filtering through the curtains. She had learned to anticipate the routines of the ranch, and moved with a quiet confidence now, carrying water to the horses and preparing breakfast without the hesitancy that had marked her first days. Haroon entered the kitchen, smiling as he watched her move with a sense of ease that he had not seen before. "You're getting really good at this," he said softly, his voice carrying a warmth that made her cheeks flush. Amina smiled back, feeling the pride of accomplishment, but also a deeper satisfaction in knowing that he had been patient with her every step of the way. Their mornings were often filled with shared work, and over time, Amina began to feel more connected to the ranch itself. She learned to recognize the subtle signs of the animals' moods, the changing patterns of the weather, and the way the land demanded careful attention. Through this shared labor, Haroon and Amina found opportunities to grow closer, not only through cooperation but through small gestures of care and understanding. When Amina struggled with a task, Haroon would guide her gently, never expressing frustration, only encouragement. "You've got this," he would say, placing a hand on her shoulder or offering a reassuring smile. These moments, though simple, created a foundation of trust that extended far beyond the work they were doing. As their days on the ranch unfolded, the couple also began to cultivate moments of emotional closeness that were separate from their daily responsibilities. After long hours of work, they would sometimes sit quietly in the shade of a tree or on the porch, sharing stories about their childhoods, their dreams, and their fears. Amina found herself opening up more freely, trusting Harun with thoughts she had never shared with anyone else. He listened attentively, never dismissing her feelings or rushing to respond. His patience created a space where she felt safe, where her vulnerability was met with understanding rather than judgment. One evening, after a particularly long day of work, Amina sat beside Harun under the stars. The air was cool, and the distant sound of animals settling for the night filled the silence around them. She felt a surge of emotion as she reflected on how far she had come since the early days of fear and uncertainty. Harun noticed the thoughtful expression on her face and gently asked, "What are you thinking about?" She hesitated for a moment, then spoke honestly, sharing her feelings of gratitude and the quiet joy she felt in their growing connection. Harun listened with a soft smile, taking her hand in his, and for the first time in months, she felt a deep sense of emotional security that went beyond words or gestures. Amina also began to understand the subtle ways in which love and intimacy could be nurtured without rush or force. Harun's patience allowed her to explore her own feelings at her own pace. She discovered that emotional closeness could grow through shared experiences, thoughtful conversation, and simple acts of care. Whether it was a helping hand while mending fences, a shared laugh while feeding the animals, or a quiet conversation at sunset, each interaction strengthened their bond. She realized that intimacy was not only about physical presence, but about the emotional connection that grew from patience, empathy, and mutual understanding. One weekend, Harun took Amina to a quiet part of the ranch she had never seen before, a small clearing surrounded by tall trees and wildflowers. The space was peaceful, almost magical, and Harun explained that he liked to come here when he needed to think or reflect. Amina felt a sense of wonder and tranquility as they walked together, her hand brushing against his. In that serene setting, they talked about their hopes for the future, their desires, and the life they wanted to build together. It was a moment of shared dreams, where both felt seen, heard, and valued. Amina realized that love was as much about these quiet moments of connection as it was about the dramatic or passionate gestures often portrayed in stories. Through the 4th month, Amina also began to notice her own growth. She had developed a sense of confidence and self-assurance that had been missing in the early days of their marriage. She was learning to trust herself, to take initiative, and to contribute meaningfully to their life on the ranch. This newfound independence did not create distance between her and Harun. Instead, it strengthened their partnership. He encouraged her growth, celebrating her achievements, and she felt empowered to express her thoughts, desires, and emotions openly. Their relationship had evolved into a true partnership, built on mutual respect and understanding. There were also moments of vulnerability that deepened their connection. Amina occasionally experienced moments of doubt or fear, wondering if she could fully adapt to ranch life or meet the expectations of her new life. In these times, Harun's patience and empathy became a lifeline. He would sit quietly with her, offering reassurance and gentle guidance, never forcing her to feel or act in a certain way. These experiences taught Amina that love required patience and understanding, and that true intimacy could grow when each partner felt safe to be themselves, without fear of judgment or pressure. Amina also began to appreciate the ways in which Harun's steady presence provided stability in her life. The ranch, with all its unpredictability, could be overwhelming at times, but his calm and thoughtful approach created a sense of security. She noticed how he handled challenges with grace, whether it was a sudden storm, a sick animal, or a broken fence. Watching him face these difficulties with patience and composure taught her that strength in a relationship was not just physical but also emotional. She felt inspired to mirror these qualities in herself, contributing to a partnership that was balanced, resilient, and nurturing. As the days passed, the emotional intimacy between Amina and Harun grew in subtle but meaningful ways. They developed a rhythm of communication, learning to anticipate each other's needs, to offer comfort without words, and to share laughter even in difficult moments. These shared experiences, both joyful and challenging, created a strong foundation of trust. Amina realized that their bond was no longer defined by fear, uncertainty, or hesitation. Instead, it had evolved into a partnership marked by patience, care, and genuine understanding. By the end of the 4th month, Amina had fully embraced her role as both a partner and an individual within the marriage. She had learned to navigate the responsibilities of ranch life with confidence, to trust her instincts, and to communicate openly with Harun. He, in turn, had learned to notice the small victories in her growth, to celebrate her achievements, and to provide steady support when challenges arose. Together, they had built a life that was grounded in patience, empathy, and mutual respect, a life where emotional intimacy could flourish naturally. Amina often reflected on the journey they had taken together since the early days of fear and uncertainty. She thought of the night she had whispered, "It hurts, let's try again tonight," and marveled at how that moment had shaped their marriage. Harun's response, marked by patience and empathy, had allowed her to grow, learn, and trust. The challenges they faced together had strengthened their bond, teaching them both the value of understanding, resilience, and partnership. Their love had become steady and enduring, a quiet but powerful force that guided them through each day. Evenings on the ranch continued to be a source of reflection and connection. Sometimes they would sit together, watching the stars emerge one by one, feeling the comfort of each other's presence. Other times, they would share stories, dreams, or simply enjoy the quiet of the land around them. These moments reinforced the lessons they had learned, that love required patience, understanding, and consistent care, that emotional closeness could be nurtured through small, meaningful gestures, and that a strong partnership was built on trust, empathy, and mutual respect. By this stage, their relationship had reached a level of emotional maturity, an understanding that neither had anticipated at the start of their marriage. Amina felt a deep sense of security, knowing that Harun's patience and care would continue to support her growth. Harun, in turn, found joy in witnessing her transformation, in seeing her confidence and independence flourish alongside their shared life. The foundation they had built together, through patience, empathy, and quiet connection, promised a future in which their love could continue to grow, resilient against challenges, and enriched by shared experiences. In these quiet, reflective moments, Amina understood that intimacy was not something that could be forced or rushed. It grew naturally, nurtured by patience, understanding, and shared experience. She realized that the true strength of their marriage lay in the consistency of their care for each other, the respect they offered, and the trust they had built through months of shared work, vulnerability, and connection. Harun's patience had transformed fear into confidence, hesitation into trust, and uncertainty into emotional closeness. By the end of Part 4, Amina and Harun's marriage had evolved into a partnership characterized by deep emotional intimacy, mutual respect, and steady love. They had learned to face challenges together, to communicate openly, and to nurture their connection through patience and empathy. The lessons of the ranch, resilience, care, and consistency, had become lessons for life and love, guiding them toward a future built on understanding, trust, and enduring partnership. By the 5th month of their marriage, Amina and Harun had grown into a rhythm that balanced work, companionship, and the quiet, steady growth of their love. Life on the ranch had become familiar yet full of surprises, as each day brought new lessons and experiences. The hardships they had faced together, stormy weather, unexpected injuries to the animals, and long, exhausting days, had strengthened their bond, teaching them patience, resilience, and the power of partnership. Amina now looked at Harun not only as her husband, but also as a teacher, guide, and unwavering support in every aspect of her life. The mornings began as they always did, with the soft light of dawn casting golden hues across the fields. Amina moved with confidence now, carrying buckets of water to the horses and helping with feeding the animals without hesitation. Harun watched her from the doorway of the barn, a small smile playing on his lips. He could see the growth in her, the way she handled tasks with care and thoughtfulness, and the ease with which she now navigated life on the ranch. He felt a quiet pride in knowing that his patience and guidance had helped her reach this point, and he understood that their journey together had shaped them both in ways they could never have anticipated. Over time, their emotional closeness had blossomed into a deeper form of intimacy. Amina had learned that love was not measured by grand gestures or fleeting passion, but by the daily acts of care, trust, and understanding. Harun's patience had given her the space to grow, to find her confidence, and to fully engage in the partnership they were building. Now, she could approach him openly with her thoughts and feelings, knowing that he would listen without judgment and respond with empathy. This mutual respect created a foundation for a love that was steady, nurturing, and enduring. One afternoon, a minor crisis tested them once again. A fence had broken in the pasture, allowing some of the younger animals to wander too far from the safety of the ranch. Harun immediately moved to gather the animals, while Amina followed, ready to help. Together, they worked efficiently, using the skills and teamwork they had developed over the months. Amina's confidence allowed her to anticipate the needs of the animals and to act decisively, while Harun's steady guidance ensured that everything was done safely and effectively. By the end of the day, the animals were safely back in the pasture, and both felt a quiet satisfaction at having faced a challenge together successfully. That evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Amina reflected on how much had changed since the first night of their marriage. She remembered the fear and uncertainty she had felt, the whispered words, "It hurts, let's try again tonight," and the patience that Harun had shown in response. That patience had been the key to everything, the reason she had grown confident, the reason their bond had deepened, and the reason she now felt secure in their love. She reached for his hand, feeling the warmth and strength that had been a constant in her life since they began this journey together. Harun smiled, squeezing her hand gently, understanding without words the gratitude and love she was expressing. Amina had also learned that emotional intimacy could be nurtured through shared experiences, quiet conversations, and the simple act of being present for one another. Harun had taught her that true partnership required patience, empathy, and consistent support, and she had embraced these lessons fully. They laughed together, shared stories from their pasts, and dreamed together about the future. These moments, though seemingly ordinary, had created a deep and lasting connection, one that neither time nor hardship could easily shake. As the weeks continued, their relationship became a blend of mutual respect, shared responsibility, and growing affection. Amina found herself anticipating Harun's needs as he did hers, creating a partnership built on understanding and care. She also began to notice the small, thoughtful gestures he made, bringing her favorite tea in the morning, quietly fixing something that was broken, or simply offering a reassuring touch at the end of a long day. These gestures, repeated over time, became symbols of a love that was practical, steady, and deeply meaningful. Harun, in turn, appreciated the growth he saw in Amina. He saw her confidence, her resilience, and her ability to handle challenges with grace. He admired her thoughtfulness, her willingness to learn, and the way she had become an equal partner in their life together. Their marriage had evolved from early uncertainty into a balanced and strong partnership, one that combined emotional connection with shared responsibility, respect, and trust. The hardships they had faced had strengthened their bond rather than weakening it, proving that true love was built through patience, perseverance, and mutual care. One day, as they walked together through the fields, Amina paused to take in the beauty of the land around them. She realized how much the ranch had become a part of her life, shaping her into someone capable, confident, and grounded. She thought of the early days, the fear, the hesitation, and the uncertainty she had felt. The transformation was remarkable, and she knew that Harun's patience, guidance, and steady love had been at the heart of it. She turned to him, a sense of gratitude and affection swelling in her chest, and said softly, "I never knew life could feel this full." Harun smiled, understanding the depth of what she meant, and together they continued walking side by side. As the 5th month progressed, Amina and Harun also began to dream together about the future. They talked about expanding the ranch, caring for more animals, and even starting a family one day. These conversations were filled with hope, excitement, and the reassurance that they would face whatever came next together. Amina felt a sense of belonging and purpose, knowing that she was not only loved but also respected as an equal partner in shaping their life. Harun, too, felt a sense of fulfillment, proud of the woman she had become and grateful for the deep emotional connection they shared. Their evenings were often spent reflecting on the day, sharing quiet laughter, or simply sitting together under the stars. These moments reinforced the lessons they had learned, that love required patience, empathy, and the willingness to grow together. They had faced challenges, navigated new responsibilities, and built trust in ways that few couples experienced so early in marriage. Each shared moment, whether of joy, laughter, or hard work, had contributed to a foundation of love that was steady, enduring, and deeply fulfilling. Amina also realized that their marriage had taught her an important lesson about vulnerability and courage. By opening herself fully to Harun, sharing her fears and uncertainties, and trusting him with her heart, she had discovered the strength to grow, learn, and thrive. Harun's patience had allowed her to explore her own emotions safely, to develop confidence, and to embrace intimacy in its fullest sense. Together, they had transformed what had once been fear and hesitation into trust, love, and mutual respect. By now, the physical and emotional intimacy between them had grown naturally. Amina no longer felt hesitation or fear, but rather a sense of comfort and security that allowed her to fully engage in the partnership they shared. Harun's steady guidance had taught her that love was not something to be rushed or forced, but something to be nurtured, cultivated, and respected. Their connection was deep, heartfelt, and enduring, built on months of patience, shared experiences, and genuine understanding. In the quiet moments of their daily life, Amina often reflected on the journey they had taken together. She remembered the early days of uncertainty and hesitation, the whispered words of fear, and the patience Harun had shown. She marveled at how much had changed, the confidence she now felt, the strength she had discovered within herself, and the deep emotional bond they had built. Their marriage had become a partnership rooted in respect, trust, and understanding, and it had evolved into a love that was steady, nurturing, and resilient. By the end of Part 5, Amina and Harun had fully embraced the life they were building together. They had grown individually, and as a couple, learning that true love was as much about patience, empathy, and shared responsibility as it was about passion and affection. Their story had evolved from fear and uncertainty into a journey of growth, connection, and enduring partnership. The ranch, once a place of challenge and unfamiliarity, had become a sanctuary where love, trust, and mutual respect could flourish. Amina now looked forward to the future with hope and excitement, confident in their ability to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Haroon felt the same, proud of the partnership they had built and grateful for the steady, enduring love they shared. Together, they had created a life filled with purpose, connection, and joy. A life where patience, understanding, and respect had transformed early fear into deep, lasting intimacy. Their story, built on quiet strength, gentle guidance, and shared growth, was a testament to the power of love nurtured by patience, empathy, and unwavering support.